Okay, I think it's time to get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. This is our fourth installment of Powering Business with Blockchain, set up by Ava Labs, supporting Avalanche. If you tuned in the past, you've seen us talk to the CEO of Circle, leaders from Deloitte, head of innovation from MasterCard, and the CEO of Wirex. I'm John Nahas. I'm the vice president of business development at Ava Labs, overseeing the BD efforts of the team here to support and promote the Avalanche blockchain. I've hosted these in the past and really excited today to host Roy Confino, the strategy and operations lead at Lemonade. So Roy, I'd love to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and speak a little bit about Lemonade.
Hi, everyone. So first of all, excuse me, thanks so much for having me on the webinar. It's really exciting. And thanks so much for everyone for your time for joining. So Lemonade is an insurtech. It's basically a full carrier. It provides insurance in the US and in Europe, direct to consumers, home insurance, pet insurance, that kind of thing. We're one of the first, I would say, insurtechs to kind of like reach scale. About 1,200 employees, again, distributed in the US. I'm based in Tel Aviv, which is our largest R&D center. We recently acquired a company in the car space called, in the car insurance space called Metromile. And we are constantly trying to innovate and provide new value to our consumers. In addition, we also have a nonprofit arm. It's called the Lemonade Foundation. And I also serve there as the head of strategy and operations. And I think that the unique thing about the foundation, the Lemonade Foundation, is that we don't just try to invest money. We actually do hands-on development and kind of project management, product management of products. And I think one of the things that we can talk about in this meeting, maybe a bit later on, is one of the first projects that we're involved in, which is a project that we're really happy to cooperate with Avalanche on. It's called the Lemonade Crypto Climate Coalition. So that's a bit about me. Back to you, John.
Yeah, thanks, Roy. Really appreciate that oversight. And I think the best thing to do is, we have a bunch of questions we want to ask you and have a great discussion today. But I think a lot of the people that are attending today in general have heard or seen news releases about the Crypto Climate Coalition that you guys are leading. So if you don't mind, let's start off with that. If you can give a little bit of an update and overview as to what that is. And I know you have a presentation, so we can maybe go through that and then follow up with some questions.
Sounds great. So thank you again so much. Let me just quickly share my screen. So maybe I'll start with an observation and a prediction. So my observation is that we're all passionate about the blockchain. I think everyone on this webinar is super interested in, but until now, the blockchain is not, it's a super interesting and innovative technological force, but it hasn't been able to touch the lives of the people that really need it the most, the people who are underserved, underinsured, and underprotected. And my prediction is that insurance is the bridgehead that will help to create that initial interesting use case that will allow the use of blockchain to influence the lives of the people who need us the most, and specifically, in this case, farmers in the developing world. So I think we've talked for a while, in the space of in the crypto space, about how can we really, really help, the underinsured, the underbanked, the unprotected. And one of the things that we've been asking ourselves in the Lemonade Foundation is, what can we do to help, and what can blockchain bring to the real world? What can it unlock? And this really connects to another thing that Lemonade has been very involved in. Lemonade is the first insurance company in the US to commit to never invest in coal. And obviously, one of the reasons, or the main reasons that we're doing that, is that we're very concerned about climate change. And this is not something that is probably going to be news to you, but climate change is becoming worse over time. And it's not only becoming worse, it's actually affecting a certain part of the world more than other parts. And that part is the tropics, the developing world. And that means more floods and more droughts that are affecting the people who are most vulnerable. So this is a problem that really concerns us and something that we wanted to solve. Because in the developing world, we have 500 million smallholder farms. That's about 2 billion people. And these people who really rely on what they grow to survive. And right now they bear the risk of all this on their own. And we believe that blockchain can be an amazing, amazing tool to pool this risk together. And if we're able to combine innovative blockchain technology with insurance and with weather data or other streams of data, I think we can solve one of the key problems in the distribution of insurance in the developing world, specifically crop insurance in the developing world, and that's the problem of cost. So for a traditional insurance company, and I would, just to be clear, I would even put Lemonade in this traditional category. For a company that doesn't work on the blockchain, underwriting, distributing, and claim handling in the developing world for crop insurance is basically unprofitable. Underwriting is super expensive, even if you do have a way to underwrite. Distributing involves traditionally insurance agents. That's not possible in the developing world. And even if you were able to underwrite it and to distribute it, claim adjudication and claim handling would be impossible because the payout on a regular crop insurance policy can be $50-$60, and that can be more, claim handling can be more than that, right? So it's just basically impossible. That's what we in the Lemonade Crypto Climate Coalition decided or are trying to solve, right? We brought together, we're really happy that we were able to bring together teams and groups and companies from different verticals like Avalanche and other from the blockchain space, from the data space, from the reinsurance space, bring them together to work on this problem of costs. And basically, by using a DAO instead of a traditional corporate structure, by using smart contracts instead of policy documents and oracles instead of claims adjusters, we can hopefully provide this product, this insurance product, for farmers in the developing world. We can turn it from something that's unsustainable to something that's infinitely scalable, because potentially the blockchain can reach Papua New Guinea just as it can Peru or East Africa. And in addition, we're going to be providing this insurance at cost. So instead of a traditional insurance company that's going to be a profit-seeking company, the DAO itself that's going to be providing this is going to be providing the policies at cost, at the actual risk of what it costs for the farmer to buy the insurance. So we believe that if we combine that with weather data, which can be objectively measured, it can be instantly reported, and it can be automatically triggered, you really unlock something that's very, very interesting. And you can use that parametric basis to really automate and double down on the amazing things that the blockchain can provide. By the way, I forgot to mention, a lot of insurance companies are very, very distrusted. I think another very interesting upside of using the blockchain is that we can go from a model that's distrusted to a model that's trustless, because it doesn't mean that the different stakeholders don't need or want to trust they don't want to trust each other, or they don't trust each other. It just means that they don't need to trust each other because everything is on chain. Everything is publicly auditable. Everything is, using smart contracts and code. So that means the data is what makes the decision. And it basically means that there's no bureaucracy somewhere in the back that makes a decision in the name of, an insurance holder. And just because it's on chain, it doesn't mean it needs to be complicated, because the way that we want to implement it, and this is again something that we're really happy to work with companies that have a lot of experience in this, like Pula and Etherisk and others. We're going to be using the same user interface to allow a farmer to buy this insurance as they are already using and they're used to using. This, for example, is a text-based mobile wallet in East Africa. It's called M-Pesa. The insurance will also use a text-based feature phone solution, but it will be connected to the blockchain in the back end. So I think the main thing that's important for me to communicate is that we're hopefully going to be launching a pilot in Africa in Q4. That's our plan at the moment. We believe that if we're able to make sure that this pilot happens, this could be a transitional, hopefully, moment in the history of blockchain, because this is a situation that we could hopefully use the blockchain to solve a real world problem of the people who need it the most, the unloved, the unprotected, the underinsured people in the developing world. And hopefully once we do that, if we're able to do that, is going to be a bridgehead to, first of all, scale for this globally, but also potentially many other innovations that can be built on top of that. So that's why we're really excited about it. One thing that I really want to, maybe I'll stop sharing right now, but one of the things that I just wanted to double down on is that there are a lot of reasons to pick Avalanche for this implementation. One of the main reasons is that obviously this is a project that is intended to battle, climate risk, and that's one of the main, I think, value propositions that we see in Avalanche, which is a proof of stake blockchain that has a very low carbon footprint. That's like a really, a quick overview of what we're doing, and I hope that gives a bit of context, and I'm more than happy to answer some questions, John.
Thanks, Roy. That was a great overview, and I really appreciate it. I think you touched on a lot of things which we'll get into. Something of importance to note is, a lot of people in the blockchain and crypto space do talk about banking the unbanked and distributing financial services to those that are in need and those that have been unbanked and that have been left out of the current or incumbent financial systems. And it's really important to note that insurance is a financial service. Insurance is the cornerstone of financial service. It's the way to protect against risk. So definitely excited about that. I do want to hop into one thing and have you explain. I know that you mentioned parametric insurance. It's a topic and a term that's been around now for a long time, but has yet to catch steam and really take hold. Do you mind just explaining what parametric insurance is and why now it's actually coming to the forefront with blockchain?
Sure. So in general, insurance is a situation where a company adjudicates an actual risk that happened, materialized, right? So for example, if you think about your car, if you have car insurance and you have an accident, the insurance company will send someone to actually understand what that damage to your car was, the actual damage that happened to your car. Parametric insurance is actually something closer to a financial derivative. It's what we do when we do parametric insurance. We call it insurance, but as I say, it's closer to a financial derivative. You basically take an index or a parameter, let's say weather, and what you do is you say, I take that as a proxy for damages. So for example, let's say we want to cover crops against drought. What we say is in East Africa, if less than 50 millimeters of rain during the short rain season in Kenya, for example, we take that as a proxy of drought. Does that mean that I actually, like maybe I aggregate my, my crops? Maybe even if 100 milliliters of rain rained, maybe it rained, down in the valley and I'm up in the mountains, so it didn't reach me. So it doesn't really mean that the risk materialized for the person who actually bought the insurance policy. That's why we call it parametric, and it's actually closer to a financial derivative. What it is, so there is a downside to it, it's less accurate, but the upside of it is that it allows for automation, obviously, right? Because if you can inject parameters through an oracle like Chainlink straight to a smart contract on Avalanche, what you can basically get is a completely automated insurance process without basically, once you've written the smart contract and deployed it on Avalanche, that's it. It runs, right? The parameters are automatically reported to, Chainlink. Chainlink automatically reports them to the smart contract. The smart contract automatically triggers the claims, and they're automatically paid into the farmer's mobile wallet. And that's something that can revolutionize insurance, definitely in the developing world, where underwriting, distribution, and claims handling is so problematic.
So, to simplify, parametric insurance can be thought of as automated insurance, right? And by automating it, removing a lot of the back-end bureaucratic office functions that are usually the most costly in providing insurance, you're able to reduce that cost and make it more accessible to people. And I would assume an algorithm is put together to say, this is how much a crop would cost to insure, and this is what the cost of the risk is. If I was to take this a step further, maybe for car insurance in some future date, with smart cars that track the parts, when an accident happens, the car could then, like an IoT way, report to the smart contract or the Oracle provider, these are the 19 items or parts that are broken or malfunctioning or not working, et cetera, and then maybe potentially in the future automate in car insurance, right? Or if you drive more miles, you pay more insurance. You don't drive, you pay less based on the risk adjustment. So look, that's super exciting and interesting. I think, that automation and the ability to do so opens up the opportunity for those that don't have insurance. And I believe in our first conversation, I asked you, why, isn't the job of insurance companies, pardon me for this, is to not pay out as much, right? And this is why, to your point, they're not trusted, is because there's a process to get reimbursed and get paid. And I said, why would they want to pay? And I remember your explanation was, it's cheaper to pay than to not pay per se, right? Sometimes, because it's automated. There's no back end. There's no people having to do all the work and the paperwork to do it. So this is definitely transformative for the people that need it the most, and hopefully it could be a stepping stool to larger applications and larger use cases. But I do want to ask you, what kind of insurance protection currently exists for these farmers or these people in underserved areas? How do they get insurance, and can they?
So the short answer is they don't. So like in Kenya, where, for example, I grew up, less than 2% of people even have access to insurance, let alone buy it, right? So basically, at first approximation, basically no one has insurance. They have rudimentary, which are very effective sometimes, local insurance schemes, right? Everyone in the village, they have like a box. Everybody puts 10 shillings in, and then if someone's goat dies, they can buy a new goat from that. But insurance as a financial product basically doesn't exist in rural Africa or the developing world.
So how are you guys going to go about recruiting people? I know you mentioned some of the great partners. I know there's NGOs. Can you highlight kind of the process in which we're going to, educate people and get them to sign up for this?
Yeah. So by the way, that's definitely one of the biggest challenges. If I had to name one challenge, it would be, or the largest challenge, it would be this one. That's why we're trying to make things as easiest and as closest as to what the farmers are, already do in a regular course of the day. So M-Pesa, for example, is very, very popular in East Africa, in Nigeria. There's also very, very, mobile wallets are also very ubiquitous. The penetration of mobile wallets that have been driven by telco companies like Safaricom, it's almost at 100%, which is mind-boggling. It's almost at 100% of the adult population. So we're basically going to be riding off that infrastructure on the one hand, and connecting it to the blockchain on the other hand. So there's not much market education that you need to do at least not on the user interface. We do need to do market education on what exactly the product that you're going to be using is. 1 second, I'm sorry. Naka. So much. I'm sorry. We are going to be riding off this infrastructure. We will be working with a lot of local NGOs, at least in the pilot stage, to help these farmers basically use the infrastructure that they already have, but in a bit of a tweaked situation to buy this insurance.
That's great. I mean, I think something that you highlight as well that's important, and when we talk about mass adoption of blockchain and when blockchain is going to have that watershed moment to really go mainstream, something that I mention a lot and something that our partners mention is, you'll know blockchain will arrive when you don't know it's being used, right? When it's in the background, when it's the infrastructure technology that so many other cool things are being built on, right? With that in mind, we do represent Avalanche here on this side. So we'd like to ask, what were the top reasons you guys chose to build on Avalanche? I know we talked about sustainability. That's, of course, I'd love to build on that as well. But just, from your perspective and the team, why Avalanche?
So there are a few, I think, very important decision points, at least for us. So this was basically a go-no, like the climate piece was basically a go-no-go situation. So we wouldn't have worked with a blockchain that is not climate friendly. There were other things though. So one was the fact that Avalanche is EVM compatible, which means that we can tap into a large and growing group of people who know how to interact with these kinds of contracts and write the code. If you have to, so without naming names, but some of the other competitors have their specific language, which is harder for us to find talent. That's one thing. Another thing is, I think, the fact that Avalanche has succeeded in providing basically the sellers or the capital that is required to fund this, right? So as we didn't go into this in detail, but this is going to be a DAO. Farmers are going to be buying insurance, but you can think about it, it's very similar to Uniswap or other DeFi projects where, a person buys insurance and another person provides the capital at risk. So you need a blockchain that is developed enough, mature enough, and has enough basically liquidity providers on the one hand to fund this insurance and has a deep enough liquidity pool. That's another thing. Also, the transaction costs, which again is I guess a factor of this proof of stake, but the transaction costs are also really important. Again, insurance for subsistence farms, it's a nickel and dime game, right? If you have to pay, I don't know what the gas fees on Ethereum are right now, but 2-3 months ago, 4 months ago, you could have paid 30, 40, 50, $60 just to buy an NFT. That's not going to work for an insurance policy that pays out $40. So I think those were the main things. And also, I mean, I don't want to, like, I don't want to seem like I'm, pardon my French, ass kissing here, but I also felt that the team was very committed, very passionate about this. Moved quickly, knew what they were doing, and I really appreciated that. Some of the other teams took longer, and we are very, this is a nonprofit initiative, but it's something that we feel very passionately about, and we want to move quickly on. It's not one of those, okay, let's hope it happens sometime situations.
Absolutely, and I think the team over here was equally impressed with the team at Lemonade and the partners that are involved here and the promise and potential of this project. So, very excited to keep supporting and build upon this as well. I do want to talk about the climate piece. You did mention that Avalanche is climate friendly. Just to remind the viewers here, the Avalanche Foundation commissioned a report by the Crypto Climate Ratings Institute. These are the gentlemen from MIT and the Technical Institute of Munich who did the seminal Bitcoin carbon footprint paper. And to give you some comparisons, Bitcoin uses about 8.5 million US households worth of carbon. Ethereum, under proof of work, is currently at around 1.6 million US households. Proof of stake, of course, is in a universe of its own. But within proof of stake, there are orders of magnitude differences. Some competing chains have about 1,100 US households, 950. Avalanche as a whole utilizes 46 US households worth of carbon. We are not the most green in terms of total emissions because, frankly, there's transactions and activity going on. A home that has its lights on for 12 hours is going to emit more than a home that has no lights on at all, or for 30 minutes of the day. But comparing apples to apples with those that have similar transactions, we are anywhere from 10 to 20 times more green. But on a per dollar transacted and per dollar secured basis, we are the greenest blockchain out there. We've actually purchased 2 times our carbon footprint to offset, so we are carbon negative and have been for the entirety of 2021 and 2022, and continue to focus on that. Something that we love to say is that the technology of the future needs to be green and sustainable, or else we're going backwards here. You can't create a new technology that uses the old ways of energy consumption. And the same with Lemonade. I think Roy's slide touched on this, right? You can't be investing in things that are going to be causing the things you're insuring against. Right. So that's important. Going back though to the farmers and the people whose lives we're actually trying to help, what impact will this new approach and this availability of insurance really have on farmers, right? Like, how will this help them? How will it change their lives?
So I don't want to sound naive, but potentially this could be life-changing. So again, think about it this way. At the risk of stating the obvious, what subsistence farmer means is that this person lives off what they grow. And if there's a drought, that can literally threaten their lives and the lives of their families. Insurance against that can help them not only financially, it can actually mean the difference between, in some cases, literal starvation, especially in areas that are more susceptible to repeated droughts, for example, the Horn of Africa. So if we're able to solve this core problem of cost and to scale this product to, in Africa, that in India, for example, there are 500 million, 600 million subsistence farmers, right? Or families of subsistence farmers. These numbers are, insane. And subsistence farmers are also the largest part of the people who are most impoverished in the world, right? People living off less than $2 a day, people who are the subject and the target of most of the, development policies that the UN and all these groups are doing. And as I mentioned, climate change is going to make their lives not only worse, it's going to make their lives much worse. So if we're able to solve this, even if we're only able to scale it to only 100,000, 200,000 people, and we're able to change the lives of those 200,000 families and basically make their lives just a bit easier, just a bit less on the edge, I think that's definitely making a dent in the universe.
Amazing. I have a question about blockchain insurance in the future, but I do want to take a question from one of our listeners who pretty much asks a question. I think you get asked this and we get asked this is, why would blockchain need to be the architecture here, right? Can't someone like a Lemonade just create an automated claim system and publish the code for those to view it?
I think the main thing that blockchain brings to the table is the fact that even a really advanced insurance company like Lemonade still operates within the confines of the traditional insurance system, which means, surplus of capital and reinsurance and costs and, people that work and all that kind of stuff. You can't really create complete automation if you're using the construct of a bygone age, right? If you want to create something that's completely automated, and I think that's, again, not to use, sorry for using buzzwords, but if you want to use something that's really digital native, you have to use programmable money. You have to use smart contracts. You have to use an infrastructure that basically does away with that need for a reinsurer and, contracts between companies and, surplus and all that kind of stuff. If we were to fund this in an exactly traditional way and just use blockchain as the database, yeah, I agree. That would not bring much value. It would actually be slower and more costly. But we are using this basically as the insurance company. This DAO, you can think about it as the company that's providing the insurance. It's not a company and it's not insurance, but I think that's the best way to provide it. We're creating an insurance company by writing code instead of by filing, a request for a license and getting, reinsurance agreements with Munich Re and whatever it is. It's not yet possible everywhere, right? But in this case, hopefully it is.
It's exciting. And, the distribution challenge here, which we were asked about, and I know we talked about with the NGOs that you guys have and that have signed up to this on the ground to go up and sign people up. I think, there is a distribution issue here, which you guys have solved for, but then there's also an education gap that you need to solve for, that we on the Avalanche side have to continuously educate people about. We've had a great chat and I know we've got a couple minutes left, but in closing, I don't want you to speak on behalf of Lemonade, just you and your position and personally, kind of where do you expect blockchain and insurance to go next? Assuming this is successful and this works and people truly benefit, where can we see insurance go in the next 2, 4, 6 years?
Yeah. So first of all, I do also have a hard stop in like a minute and a half, but so I really believe that as time goes by, I'm not sure if it's 6 years, right? But as time goes by and as more of the world is interconnected to the internet, I see the blockchain as the infrastructure for most financial services, but definitely for insurance, right? Because I think basically blockchain is really the basis that can provide that new layer of financial infrastructure. Basically, when cars are connected to the internet, when planes are connected to the internet, when over time, I don't want to sound again crazy, but if we are connected to the internet as humans, over to with Apple Watches, with whatever it may be, as those things can be streamed into the blockchain, I think the opportunity to automate and to do away with a lot of the middlemen and women, in that process is going to be tremendous. I think the blockchain potentially it can revolutionize definitely insurance, but probably many other financial services.
Well, that's the hope, and that's kind of the shared future that we're all working towards. With that in mind, Roy, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everything that you're doing at Lemonade in partnership with Avalanche. Really excited to continually support this, and thank you to everyone who joined today for listening in on this fourth Powering Business with Blockchain. We appreciate your
So much
support.
for having me.
Thank you,
Take
everyone.
care.
Thanks, Roy.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.